Okay, we've been in Exodus for a little bit now, and we've moved from the Exodus out of Egypt into the wilderness, and they've been given the law. They're there at Mount Sinai, and God through Moses is spelling out what we've been seeing is the tabernacle. The tabernacle was like their temple, their place of worship. It was a tent that would travel with them, is going to travel with them throughout the wilderness and the desert as they go. And we talked about the furnishings of the tabernacle, some of the specific things inside the tabernacle. 2 weeks ago, we talked about last week the tabernacle and its construction itself. And tonight, we're going to move from the tabernacle and its furnishing to the people who work in the tabernacle, the servants of God at the tabernacle, that is the priests. And so we have chapter 28 is devoted to the priestly garments, the actual clothes they wore, and chapter 29 is devoted to primarily their, what we might call ordination, but it's a consecration ceremony for priests when they become priests. And I'm going to tell you, these chapters, 28 and 29, are over 40 verses each. And we're going to try to knock them out tonight. How does that sound? All right, so somebody call the nursery, tell them we're going to be late. All right, no, I'm kidding. I'm gonna try to speed through it a little bit here and skim over some things. All right, but I think that you know how big these chapters are, and all the details is part of the point. God is very specific about how He is to be worshipped, and He demands their obedience in the worship, and that is especially true for the priests. So we've seen the great detail so far going into explaining the tabernacle and the furnishings of that wilderness temple that they're going to travel around and worship in. And it's interesting, in the book of Genesis, we have 2 chapters given to the creation of the heavens and the earth and the whole universe and all of creation. 2 chapters. And for the tabernacle and everything involved in the tabernacle, there's about 50 biblical chapters devoted to it. 50. And so, this is how you worship God. This is what was expected for the Israelites. This is specifically how the priests would worship God. So, join me there, chapter 28. Let's read here a little bit. It says this: "Have your brother Aaron with his sons come to you from the Israelites to serve me as priest. Aaron, his sons Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar, make holy garments for your brother Aaron, for glory and beauty. You are to instruct all the skilled artisans who I have filled with a spirit of wisdom, to make Aaron's garments for consecrating him to serve me as priests. These are the garments that they are to make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a specially woven tunic, a turban, and a sash. They are to make holy garments for your brother Aaron and his sons, so that they may serve me as priests. They should use gold, purple, and scarlet yarn, and fine linen." So, take a break real quick. What's going to happen here is this principle we've kind of already seen so far. We've seen Moses in the office of priest so far, functioning as a priest. He's the one going before God and offering sacrifices and being there before God. God is going to Moses for the people. So God goes through Moses to the people. And what is it being established? God is establishing what's called the priesthood, the Levitical priesthood. And specifically it says Aaron. So Aaron will be the first high priest of the Levitical priesthood. And then every priest after this for the Israelites will be of the tribe of Levi. So of Jacob's 12 sons, Levi, descendant of Levi, and then specifically a descendant of Aaron. If they're a Levite, not a descendant of Aaron, they will serve in the temple. They'll minister in the temple and the tabernacle, but they can't do the functions of a priest. If they are the direct descendant of Aaron, they will be a priest. And a few of his sons are named there. Most notably, Nadab and Abihu, also Eleazar and Ithamar. In Leviticus chapter 10, we'll see those names, Nadab and Abihu, again. If you're familiar with that story, you're kind of smirking at me a little bit right now, because that's right. They will break these rules that are established here. They'll offer what's called a strange fire. We don't exactly know what that means before the Lord, and the Lord will zap them. I mean, He'll just take them out right there. And so, but that's later on. That's later. That doesn't take place just yet. So what's going to happen, as I mentioned in chapter 28, is the outfit that they're going to wear, the priestly garments, and they are very, very special clothes. Did you ever get in trouble when you were little for playing outside in your school clothes? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. These are like super special clothes, right? These are not your everyday outside mess around in clothes. These are more than your Sunday best. This is a high dollar, super fancy, the fanciest set of clothing in all of Israel for sure, by a lot. Okay, and that's what's going to happen. So the priests are going to wear these special clothes when they minister in the tabernacle. Remember, everything inside the tabernacle is gold, so these clothes fit in perfectly there. Okay, but notice, I think this is interesting. If you look at verse 3, it says, you are to instruct all the skilled artisans whom I have filled with a spirit of wisdom to make Aaron's garments. And so that's interesting. That kind of jumps out to me for a couple of reasons. But number one, here's what's true on a very basic level. Aaron has to have these clothes in order to minister in the way God wants him to minister and to be dressed. And so Aaron can't do his very important job as high priest if these skilled artisans don't do their job, right? So if these artisans, these artists, these people who engrave and are able to make embroidery and all the things they do, artistic works, if they don't have the skill necessary, they got to be skilled artisans. And number two, the wisdom of God. That's what he says, I have filled with a spirit of wisdom. So it's just interesting to me. You would think of all the people who are going to be described as being filled with the spirit of wisdom in this section, it would be one of the priests. But it's not one of the priests, is it? It's one of the artists. And it just appears, just to me, it makes me think about this, that oftentimes people say, well, I'm not a missionary, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a this, I'm not a that. And so it's like you're like a second-class citizen in the kingdom of God, but that's not true, because it's the same thing that's true here. God fills these individuals who are just tradespeople, right? They're just a skilled tradesman at whatever that is, engraving, embroidery, whatever it is. He fills them with a spirit of wisdom for what? His higher purpose. And I think that's true for you as well. If you're a follower of Jesus, if you have His Holy Spirit living in you, whatever career you have, whatever trade or skill that you have, God can use it ultimately for His higher purpose. I just think it's interesting. The only people in this section that are said to be wise, we know Nadab and Abihu aren't wise because they're going to get taken out by God. It's these skilled artisans who are filled with a spirit of wisdom. I don't know about you, but I want to be filled with a spirit of wisdom, don't you? That's quite the compliment. I'm filled by God with a spirit of wisdom. So we'll go through some of these clothes real quick, point out a couple of things to you, not spend a lot of time on it. The first thing that we're told here is an ephod, which is a finely spun linen embroidered with gold and blue and purple and scarlet yarn, have two shoulder pieces. So this is like a fancy vest, okay? In your mind, picture a fancy vest with a woven waistband, and it goes on, all out of one piece of fabric. Then there's going to be on this outfit, on this vest, verse 9, 2 onyx stones engraved on them the names of Israel's sons. So you'll see that a couple of times, okay? Verse 10, 6 of their names on the first stone, and the remaining 6 on the stones on the second stone, in order of their birth. So the Israelite priests will carry with them on their body these stones engraved with the names of the tribes of Israel in a couple of places. And what's important is, the picture is that these priests, when they go in to do their work in the temple, they aren't representing God, they're really representing the Israelites, right? So this one high priest goes in on behalf of all the Israelites, and literally their names are written on him. So the Israelites can't go into the Holy of Holies. They can't see the mercy seat and the Ark of the Covenant. They can't be in the presence of God. This high priest has to go in on their behalf, but he carries their names with him. So their names go in, and he represents the Israelites before God and makes sacrifices on their behalf. And so you have the ephod, the vest, and you have the breastpiece, which is also embroidered in a similar fashion, very fancy, all the gold, the purple, the scarlet yarn. In verse 16, it says this breastpiece, so it would be something that would be adhered to the ephod, adhered to the vest, and it's going to be square and folded double, so it's like a pouch, all right? And it's going to be 9 inches long by 9 inches long, so that would be a span in the Hebrew. A span in the Hebrew was that. So that's, for me, that's not 9 inches long. That's only, it's that, excuse me. That's still not 9 inches long. But a span would be half a cubit, and a cubit was the length of your fingertips to your elbow. And so the standard measurement of that would be 9 inches, 18 inches. But that's how they measure stuff without rulers and tape measures and laser pointing measuring devices and that kind of thing. About 9 inches would be the standard. And so that's what it's going to be, a 9-inch square, doubled and flipped over, and a pouch. On it, going to be gemstones in 4 rows, 12 stones, each with the name of Israel's son. So there, once again, the name of Israel. And verse 29 says specifically it's going to be over the heart of Aaron as he goes in to wear this garment, this breastpiece on top of the ephod. And inside of it, verse 30, it says, place the Urim and the Thummim in the breastpiece for decisions. And you might notice as this, verse 15, as this breastpiece is beginning to be described, it says, the breastpiece for making decisions. And you think, well, how in the world can a pouch or a piece of clothing help you make decisions? You got to sometimes make decisions in your closet what piece of clothing to wear, but clothing itself doesn't make decisions. Well, it's because of these Urim and the Thummim, which I'm certain I'm pronouncing those incorrectly, but they would go in the pouch, okay? And these were some kind of stones, and they were used to discern the will of God. All right, so in the New Testament, they'll cast lots. You're probably familiar with that term. In our day, we might call that like drawing straws, rolling dice, something like that, to make a decision. Maybe in our day, we'd use the old magic 8-ball. Remember that? This is like the magic 8-ball that God's okay with. All right? And honestly, we don't know how it works. The Bible doesn't really. What's incredible is there's a lot of description on the ephod and the breastpiece and all these things that we could probably honestly care less about, if we're going to be honest. This thing about that helped them make decisions. Now, I'd like to know more about that, and we know almost nothing about that, okay? That's all we know. What I just described to you, that's all we know about it. It was some kind of stones, these 2 stones, that somehow helped them make decisions. We don't know if it's something they would throw up and it would flip and land, and they go, oh, okay, that's a yes. We don't know. Some rabbis even have said over time that it glowed. When God would speak through these things, they would light up. And so we have literally no idea. They're mentioned several times in Scripture. Later on, Joshua is going to consult the Urim and the Thummim to know whether or not he's supposed to go into war. He'll go and consult these through the high priest. Interestingly, I think it's interesting, Saul, the first king of Israel, he rebels against God, and God turns his back on Saul and will no longer lead Saul. He rejects Saul as king, and it says specifically that God would no longer speak to Saul, not through the Urim or the Thummim. So the picture is that Saul was having the priests consult these 2 stones for decisions on his behalf, and they didn't work for him. God wouldn't use them. So they're not like dice, right? They're not like straws. They're not like a magic 8-ball. I don't know how. Perhaps God would use them by confirming repeatedly the same message through them. And if you got a different, if one time you used them and it was a yes, and the next time it was no, and the next time it was yes, and the next time it was no, maybe that's how you knew God wasn't speaking to you through them. I'm totally guessing, totally conjecture for sure, but that's what would be in the breastpiece on top of the ephod, these 2 stones that help them make decisions. Specifically when there was no prophets or times when a major decision would be made by a king, they would consult the high priest, who would consult the Urim and the Thummim, even though we have no clue how those things worked. Okay, so we keep going here. Oh, I went the wrong way. You got the next garment, which is mentioned in verse 31 of chapter 28, and that is the robe. So the robe would go under the ephod, and so then, therefore, under the breast piece. So it says you are to make the robe of the ephod entirely of blue yarn. So that'd be good. So in your mind, as you picture this individual and all these different garments on him, they're going to look mostly blue. Okay, in your mind. By the way, blue, my favorite color as well, but that's not here nor there. I'm not saying I'm very priestly because of that. I'm just saying if the robe fits. All right, so here's what it says. There should be an opening at the top of this robe, in the center of it. Around the opening, there should be a woven collar, one piece like body armor so that it does not tear. So one piece of fabric with a hole in the top of it and a reinforced or woven collar so that the garment doesn't tear. It's going to be used for a long time by a lot of people. And also notice it says, verse 33, make pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn on its lower hem all around it. Put gold bells between them all the way around, so that the gold bells and pomegranates alternate around the lower hem of the robe. The robe will be worn by Aaron whenever he ministers, and its sounds will be heard when he enters the sanctuary before the Lord and when he exits, so that he does not die. So the idea would be, Aaron, the high priest, is going to go into the sanctuary, the Holy of Holies, once a year, and only he can go in there. The other priests might be out in the holy place, which is the kind of the entrance area, the bigger area of the tabernacle, and they'll be outside. Certainly they'll be outside in the courtyard of the tabernacle, but only one guy can go into that Holy of Holies. And so while they're outside and can't go inside, we'll be able to hear him, though. These bells will tell them what he is doing. Now, tradition says, and I don't find this anywhere in the biblical record, but there's a tradition that sometimes the high priest would wear these bells and then a rope around one leg. And the idea would be that way, if the bells quit ringing, right? If he fell over dead in the Holy of Holies, he's the high priest. Nobody can go in there. So they're very practical. If he fell over dead, they would be able to drag him out without having to go in there. Once again, that's a Jewish tradition. It's not in the Bible. But the bells would certainly tell you what was going on. I mean, they know what the priest is supposed to be doing in there, so you can just imagine in their minds, they hear the bells move, and they say, okay, he's putting the blood on the mercy seat. He's doing this, he's doing that, and they could participate without being in there just from the sound of these bells shaking. All right? And then he's going to go on. You have the turban. If you're looking at verse 36, sit here and make a pure gold medallion, engrave it, the engraving on the seal, holy to the Lord. Fasten it to a cord of blue yarn so it can be placed on the turban. The medallion is to be worn in front of the turban. So get a picture. Blue robe, ephod with all these jewels on the front of it, and the breastpiece with the jewels on it. Golden rings connect, by the way, the breastpiece to the ephod. And now there's got a turban or a hat, a wrapped hat on his head with a medallion right in the middle of it. And it'll be on Aaron's forehead so that Aaron may not bear the guilt connected with the holy offering that the Israelites consecrate as their holy gifts. It's always to be on his forehead so that they may find acceptance with the Lord. So he's going to have over his heart, in that breastpiece, the name of all the tribes of Israel, and on his forehead, above his eyes and over his head, this seal which says, holy or set apart to the Lord. Now there's more garments too. Verse 39, you're to weave a tunic from fine linen, make a turban of fine linen, make an embroidered sash, make the tunic, sashes, and headbands for Aaron's sons to give them glory and beauty. Put these on your brother Aaron and his sons, then anoint and ordain them and consecrate them. Verse 42, make them linen undergarments. Listen, even their underwear is going to be special for these priests, all right? And linen. That's nice. Could have been wool. Nobody wants wool breeches, so that's nice. But also, these tunic and these robe and all the things, they have to last a long time. So there's a practical element here. They're not going to be naked underneath this outfit. Interestingly, and some of you may know this, may not know this, maybe like, are you kidding me? To this day, do you know that Mormon people, people who are part of the Mormon religion, wear special underwear under their clothes all the time? Their temple underwear, their special garments, and it's like long, and it's like a shirt, and it's a whole thing, and that's after they do their temple work. They're able to get these garments, and it's supposed to be like a reminder to them. But, remember the Israelite priests, they didn't wear all these fancy clothes all the time. Like they weren't putting their kids to bed wearing the breastpiece and the ephod, like the little girl's hair get caught in one of the gemstones. Like that didn't happen. They only would wear these special clothes when they ministered in the temple. These were very, very expensive, very special clothes. The whole point was to set them apart for that special. Even their underwear was set apart. That's the picture. They are going to do a very special task. They are going to go into the presence of the Lord. They're going to minister and serve the Lord. And so it can't be your everyday outfit like all the rest of the Israelites would wear. It's got to be very, very special for the special occasion, special task.